Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside. Come inside. Day 286, I think, or 5 of my video challenge, way past 77. That is the intro words. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. A triple live album. Last week in ballet class, my teacher put on Aaron Copland's song from the ballet called Rodeo. She put on this piece called Hoedown. And Hoedown was ELP's signature opening song when they came out on stage. It just brought me back, whoosh, like that. Decades passed. ELP was my transition from the hard rock, heavy metal era to the progressive rock era, to classical ballet. And they did this in many stages for me, but one of the particular ones is their album Pictures at an Exhibition, which I heard in high school. And this is a classical composition by Mussorgsky. It's kind of timely with the Great Gates of Kiev and what's happening in the Ukraine. But here, ELP took this album and they took the classical elements but made it their own, made it more rocking. Their first album, well, let me just show you real fast how many of their albums I have, but the first album, just simply ELP. Here they have a few. Well, The Barbarian has the best drum ending of any song ever recorded in history, and that's tipping my hat to Carl Palmer. But it put them on the map as this incredible trio: keyboards, bass, guitar, and the beautiful voice of Greg Lake. And so once I started listening to ELP and became enamored with their sound, with their live show, back in 1977, this album Works came out, which has a piano concerto by Keith Emerson. They came to New York City with a 70-piece orchestra. It bankrupted the band, but that was it. That was like, what rock band goes around with a 70-piece orchestra? Then, like 6-7 months later, I talked about this as the coldest night of my life. This show in Nassau Coliseum in February of 1978. Then more and more times I'd seen them since then. But Keith Emerson comes to New York probably around the year 2000. ELP is no longer this massive, blockbuster band. They're like in between stages of their career. And he comes to Manny's Music Shop on 46th Street, not far from where I live. And I go down there, and everyone, there's probably like 50 people cramped into this store, and they have albums for him to sign. And it comes my turn, and he's like, he's asked me, where's your stuff? He's got his pen ready. And I'm like, no, I don't have anything. I just want to shake your hand. That same hand that has created so many sounds that brought me joy in my life. Puts out his hand, smiles, very polite, professional. I didn't wash his hand for some time. Well, why Keith Emerson? Why now? Of course, this flashback from last week and in listening to the music and how much, as I said, they were my bridge from the rock world to the classical ballet world. But also right around this time is when Keith Emerson, several years ago in early March, is when he took his own life at like age 70. And I cried. I was like, first of all, just hearing that he died, I just burst out into tears. This man who brought so much joy to my life and millions of other people's lives. Then when I found out that killed himself and he suffered depression. And the fact that people were criticizing him because he couldn't play, he couldn't perform at age 70 the way he could when he was 20, 30, and 40 years old. Guess what? Things happen. My first thought is no, you should not care. Keith Emerson, a man of your genius and ability, should not care what fans' criticisms are all about. But I don't have the units for depression. For me, if the baseball team, the Mets, lost 3 games in a row, I would be depressed for like half an hour, and that's it. I'm on to my next project. That's the extent that of units I have for depression, but it's very serious for many people and leads to them taking their own lives. It's not rare. So when I heard this about Emerson, it just tore at my heart. This man who just was a giant, a genius. I remember hearing that he ran the New York City Marathon. I even chatted with that about, yeah, I did the marathon too. That was part of our quick conversation. And when he would perform, sometimes his piano teacher would be in the audience, like grading him, always striving for perfection. When clearly when he was at his peak, and despite all the sadness of him taking his own life, I consider myself a lucky man for enjoying seeing him in concert, enjoying what his music and the other two. I mean, I've seen Carl Palmer several times and met him, shook his hand over the past like 5-6 years. He's come to New York many times, and totally grateful for that. But Emerson was, it's Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Man. Thank you, Keith. There's some Facebook group called Raise a Glass to Keith Emerson. I don't have a glass, but I always think of you with all the wonderful music you created. So we'll see you tomorrow, day 287 of my video challenge.